Howdy folks, I do hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Today, in this Tier 8, although there are plenty of Tier 6s involved, domination battle here on the estuary map, we have Call Me Dutch Dave. I have to admit, I do have certain paternal feelings about his choice of name. I wonder if I had anything to do with that, because I do... If anybody has any kind of foreign name, I always just call them Dave, don't I? And, well, Dave here is Dutch. He's a proud swamp German in his Tier 8 Russian battleship, the Nelsky. We talked about Jingles, it's clearly a Lenin. Well, yeah, but it looks like the Nelson, and it's Russian, so... come on, I don't have to explain it, surely. Anyway, the matchmaking. Carrier, 2 destroyers, 2 submarines. It's like a greatest hits compilation of reasons for battleships to be nervous. Although it could be worse, he could be in that Pensacola. Pensacola's do not do well in Tier 8 battles. Hell, Pensacolas do not do well in Tier 6 battles. It was a pretty crappy ship when it was Tier 7. It's not that much better when it's Tier 6. So, anyway, the Nelsky. You know, it's not bad. I mean, it's not especially good in any one regard. But there's nothing really... Well, there is one thing bad about it, but that's its anti-aircraft firepower, and that's almost completely irrelevant anyway. But other than that, there's nothing really bad about it. It's just one of those all-round, fairly good in just about every way that matters ships. It's got a 100mm icebreaker bow, which means it can't be citadelled from the front by ships with 18-inch guns. Its own armament consists of 9 406mm guns. The penetration isn't amazing and the accuracy isn't great, but it's not bad. And they're all in that triple forward turret alignment. But unlike on the Nelson, for example, here on the Lenin, that B turret, the second one from the front, can actually rotate a full 360 degrees, which allows you a greater degree of flexibility. Plus, the forward firing angles are actually fairly good. You only have to angle 27 degrees off the bow to get all 9 guns firing. So you don't have to expose an uncomfortable amount of skirt and risk getting yourself broadside citadelled in order to get all of the guns firing at a target ahead of you. The speed's not bad either. I mean, it's no speed demon, but it's definitely not slow, unlike some of, for example, the American battleships. It has fairly thick deck armour and upper belt, which means it doesn't take that much damage from high explosive shells. There is one good and at the same time bad thing about it, but this is common to all of the Russian, well, most of the Russian battleships. It has an extremely fast damage control consumable, by which I mean the cooldown between applications of the damage control is very, very short. So this is a good thing because it means you can put out fires, control floods, clear sonar pings much faster than anybody else, but it's a bad thing because you get limited charges, unlike on other ships where you can basically use the damage control every time it comes off cooldown. Here on the Nelsky, you only get 4 charges. Really kind of struggling to think of especially bad things to say about this ship. Its choice of consumables are very limited, of course. I mean, aside from damage control and repair party, which is common to all battleships, it doesn't get radar, it doesn't get hydro, it doesn't get any kind of reload booster. Basically, all it gets is a catapult fighter, which is worthless. Yeah, the anti-aircraft defences are really, really bad, which is kind of ironic when you see how this battle develops. And also, you recall when the Russian battleships were first introduced, everybody was saying these things are just too tough, they're too tanky, and they've got too much firepower. And Wargaming said, we hear you, and we're going to do something about it. And they nerfed the anti-aircraft guns. Yeah. Wargaming's response to Russian battleships being just that little bit too good was to buff aircraft carriers. Wow, nobody saw that one coming. Right, anyway, so, the battle. The reason why we're watching this particular battle today, it's all because of positioning. And now is, well, as good a time as any to talk about it. Because there's no real way to sugarcoat this. And Dave knows this himself. I mean, he admitted as much in the email that accompanied this battle replay. His positioning right here is absolutely awful. And ironically, it could have been really good with just a little bit more attention to detail, but he fumbles it horribly. So observe here, notice the Nagato, and he's got a good shot at the Nagato here. There are 4 enemy battleships over there, and a heavy cruiser. You do not want to be fighting them all at the same time unless you have to. But he can use this island to shield himself from everything but the Nagato. And the Nagato's got his own problems. He's just realised he's overextended and he's going to try to turn around and back off. Dave sailed a little bit further forward than he probably intended to. He's trying to slow down and he's going to have to back off these rocks in order to continue the barrage against the Nagato there. And you can see the rear firing angles on these turrets are pretty good too. So providing he can clear this island, he can inflict some serious damage on that Nagato without any of those other, that huge cluster of enemy ships, without any of them being able to do anything about it. This should have been a great example of superb positioning. Unfortunately, Dave is going to suffer from a little bit of a rush of shit to the brain. Like I said, don't worry, he knows. He admitted as much in the email that accompanied this replay. From here, he should still be able to shoot at the Nagato without exposing himself to return fire from any of that lot, but he keeps reversing out, and instead of going for the leftmost target, which is the safest target to shoot at, he's going for the rightmost target, which is exposing him to the threat of return fire from, well, all of that. And there's 4 battleships over there. And the Nelsky is a reasonably tough battleship, but it's not immune to damage. In particular, it has a, well, you know, it's no Kremlin. It doesn't have an underwater citadel. Fortunately, all of those guys have their minds on other matters. I have to say, though, the rest of the team over by the western flank, Cap Circle Alpha, have been doing an amazing job. Because there's not a huge amount of ships there trying to repel an obscene amount of incoming enemy firepower. And they're actually doing all right. Again, positioning. Don't worry. He's going to make up for this, 100%. But, I mean, I couldn't ignore how badly he fumbles it right at the start of this battle around this island, because it was pretty terrible. But he knows. He's fully expecting to get savaged in the comments section of this video for how badly he screwed up in the first half of this battle. But he's going to make up for it. Trust your Uncle Jingles. So, not quite halfway through the battle, Dave's only done 16, nearly 17,000 damage. Not good. The team are ahead though. They're up 1 kill, 1 cap circle, and about 150 points. It's here where Dave starts to make a difference. So remember, earlier on I was talking about using cover and terrain so that you never have to fight more than 1 enemy at a time. Those are the ideal circumstances. Well, actually, the ideal circumstances is when there's 4 or 5 of you ganging up on 1 enemy, but that's not always possible to arrange. Remember, fair fights are for suckers. But if possible, like here, with shots out at the Zeton and nobody else able to return fire at him, try to position yourself and use the terrain to arrange the odds so that if they're not in your favour, they're at least not overwhelmingly in the enemy team's favour. Never fight more enemy ships at once than you absolutely need to. Okay, the enemy team have evened the kills, they've knocked out the Normandy, but it's only now, and we're basically halfway through the battle, that that massive blob of enemy battleships over there is starting to make inroads into the cap circle at Alpha. Now from here, he's got some fairly good shots. He's going for the cruiser, obviously, because, you know, 16-inch armor piercing, it's a cruiser. Oh, you've got to be kidding. 1 ricochet. Disappointing, but not as a result of bad positioning. He's going to want to start pushing forward here, though. Not just because there's a cap circle there that needs to be, well, if not flipped, then at the very least contested, but also he's got the attention of the Nagato. The Nagato's firing high explosive, because, you know, bow on battleship, chances are you're just going to ricochet if you fire armor piercing. So not a terrible choice, but remember, never fight more than 1 enemy at a time unless you have to. And he is giving flanking shots to the Zeton if it suddenly decides to start paying attention. But again, there's a nice big old island just off his port bow that he can use to protect himself from everybody other than the target that he's actively engaging. The Nagato. This is perfect. Well, it's not 100% perfect. he can't protect himself from the aircraft carrier. Luckily, it missed. And the Nagato, I mean, look at that. Come on, let's get some citadels going. He's only got the one turret ready to go, and the dispersion on those shells was shocking. He's not the only one shooting at the Nagato, though. I mean, again, the Nagato overextended to the west at the beginning of the battle. Now he's overextending to the east. Dave's going to want to keep moving forward, though, because, well, look at the map. Look at all of the enemy battleships on the other side of the island. Yeah, those guys. He needs to keep the island between him and them, and he also doesn't want to be sitting still waiting for the enemy carrier to come back. Oh, that's bad. Fubuki. So, leaving the cap circle was not ideal. Didn't have an awful lot of choice, and he's left it for very good reasons. But it's okay, because there's a friendly Kagero inside the cap circle. This is fine. But where are the Fubuki torpedoes? I don't get it. I mean, the Fubuki knew he was here, and he's got a perfect torpedo shot lined up against him here as he's forced to go nose in against the airdrop torpedoes from the Parsifal. So why, if you were in a torpedo destroyer, would you come out in front of a battleship that you knew was there if your torpedoes were not ready to go? I mean, he's dead now, so we'll never know, but Dave was moving forward anyway. Even if the Fubuki's torpedoes were on cooldown and he had to wait 20 seconds, then wait 20 seconds, let the battleship come around the corner of the island, torpedo him at point-blank range, without getting hammered by his main guns by sailing out in front of him while you're waiting for the torpedoes. It just didn't make any sense at all. Nagato's still up, but his angle against him can't angle against aircraft, unfortunately, but you can smack 22,000 points worth of health off the carrier while it's scrambling to get into cover, which is always nice. And if you look at the map, again, positioning. The Bismarck, the Hawk, the Zeton, he's got an island between him and them. You can't angle against the carrier. Might want to start turning to port, though, because so far the Nagato's been firing high explosive at him, but if he wises up and starts launching armor piercing, and yeah, there we go, he's turning to port. Perfect. He's angling against the Nagato, because the Nagato might... There it is, armor piercing. Perfect. Parsifal keeps throwing its aircraft against him, and why not? You know, it's the Nelsky, its AA is terrible. But it's not just him. There's a Cross of Dawn next to him. It's a cruiser, and the cruiser does actually have decent AA, and that combination is shredding the Parsival's already depleted squadrons. He did some big damage to the Nagato there. Come on, one more salvo, finish him off. This should be it. And then he can turn his guns once they've reloaded back to the Parsival. Yep, there goes the Nagato. Well, that didn't look like he was given enough lead. Parsival manages to get 2 torpedoes off. He's going to eat one of them, and he's taking fire from the Bismarck now. The Bismarck took advantage of Dave's being focused on the Nagato and the Parsival over there in order to launch a full salvo of 15-inch shells straight into Dave's broadside. Dave, however, is still alive and now angling up against the Bismarck because the Bismarck was not firing armor piercing. Remember, this is a Nelsky, it's not a Kremlin. It does actually have a citadel that you can hit. The Bismarck had its chance. The Bismarck blew it. To be fair to the Bismarck, though, he's reloaded the armor piercing and he's going for the cruiser instead, now that Dave's angled up against him. And I think the reason the Bismarck had the high explosive loaded in the first place was because he was going for the Kagero. And he just saw Dave as a target of opportunity. So let's not be too critical of the Bismarck. However, and again, you know, yeah, he's turned around. He's given flat broadside to 16-inch shells. It's a Bismarck. Turtleback armor. You're never going to citadel a Bismarck from that range. Doesn't mean it's immune to damage. He did just bitch slap it for 17,000. But don't expect to score any citadels on ships like the Bismarck or the Grosse Kurfürst or the Tirpitz, for example. German battleships with turtleback armor schemes covering the citadels at anything other than point-blank range. The thing about the Bismarck, though, is its advantages do not really lie in its... Oh my god, did you just get the Air Defense Expert Award? In a Lenin. What the hell? Oh well, that actually happened. I think Dave probably has to thank the Cross of Dawn over there for softening up those passable aircraft. Oh, look at this. Oh, you're so dead. You are so dead. Okay, maybe not that one, but that was just one turret. He's got another 6 gun barrels to go. Oh, HMS Hawk, you poor sweet summer child. He had to choose between death by torpedoes or death by multiple citadels. He didn't really have any good choices to make. Either way, he was doomed. But yeah, Air Defense Expert Award in the Lenin. We probably have to thank the Cross of Dawn, who stuck with him through thick and thin here for, he loosened the jar for him with his anti-aircraft firepower. But the Bismarck, yeah. I can't say that the Bismarck's playing poorly. Oof. But that ship's advantages probably lie in its secondaries, which he's not getting to use here because they're all out of range. Again, I'm not saying that's the Bismarck's fault. I'm not saying that in that position, this guy should turn around and try to close the distance to get his secondaries into play, because that would be a terrible idea. It's unfortunate that he's not actually able to rely on the strengths of the ship that he's sailing. He's trying to recover some health here, but Dave's got 9 guns that can fire at him, and as long as the Bismarck's running away, he's only got 3 guns that can fire back. Wait, no, hang on. Jingles moment. Bismarck doesn't have triple gun turrets, and it's got more than 1 turret at the back. Yeah, there we go. It's got 2 double turrets, of course. Yeah, 4 turrets, 2 at the front, 2 at the back, 2 guns each. My bad. Sorry, Bismarck player. You're doing the best with with the limited options that are available to you. It's just not going to be enough. And there's kill number 4. That just leaves 3 enemies. This was a fairly close game. Both teams have 2 cap circles. There's only 1 kill difference, and that's only just changed with the death of the Bismarck. Dave's team are well ahead on points, of course. And that, of course, as always, is because of map control. The enemy team took far too long. Oh, Dave, you didn't give nearly enough lead there. Yeah, the parcel's actually pretty quick. But yes, I'd go so far as to argue that the enemy team actually lost the battle right here, right off Dave's starboard beam at Cap Circle Alpha, because they wasted far too many ships and took far too long to take control of that cap circle. Well, that and the fact that when Dave finally started getting all of his shit together and started killing everything and got himself a high caliber, doing 180,000 damage, that was also a factor, but mostly it was the utter cluster that the enemy team contrived to get themselves into over here at Cap Circle Alpha when they had an overwhelming weight of numbers advantage. 4 battleships, a battlecruiser, a submarine, a heavy cruiser, at least 1 light cruiser, and it took them half the game to take this cap circle. And they're now in the process of losing it, although they have managed to claw kill back, so they're not out of it yet. Come on, Dave, you're taking far too long killing this parcel. 1 more kill and you're there. There it is. Kraken Unleashed to go with the High Caliber, and the Air Defense Expert team are once again nearly 400 points ahead. The 2 surviving enemies, the battlecruiser Zeton, the submarine Sturdy, over at Cap Circle Delta, trying to flip it, and, basically it's only really worth consolation points for them. Maybe a little bit of extra experience and credits at the end of the battle, because it is way too late for it to make any kind of difference. Possible surviving aircraft coming in, trying to get themselves a bit of revenge. I see what you're trying to do there, Parsible, but you're a day late and $1 short. Oh, he might get 1 hit. He does get 1 hit, a couple of thousand damage. I guess it all helps. But in no way did that make any kind of difference to the outcome of this battle. So, call me Dutch Dave in the Nelski. Absolutely abysmal start. And again, I know I'm probably too late saying this, even though it's the 3rd time I've said it. He knows just exactly how bad he screwed up in the first half of the battle. But after that sudden and inexplicable rush of shit to the brain in the first 10 minutes, I think he more than made up for it with his textbook positioning in the second half of the battle, resulting in a high caliber, a Kraken Unleashed, and extremely unusually in this ship, an Air Defense Expert Award. I think we can probably thank the Cross of Dawn, who stuck with him through thick and thin through the second half of the battle, for loosening the lid on the jar on that one for him. If we're being completely honest here. But either way, it was impressive to see how Dave turned things around from his, quite frankly, terrible performance in the first half of the battle, going from 0 to hero in the second half. And I hope you enjoyed watching him do it, because that's it for today. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.